There's a story from the Mayan tradition. The gods made people first out of the earth, out of mud. But it was not good. The mud was soft and it melted away. The people made of mud had no strength, and they fell down. They could not move their heads to turn this way or to look back or to look forward. The mud spoke, but they had no minds. They prayed, the gods prayed and decided, well, let's carve people out of the wood, out of the trees. They took the wood from the rainforest, saying, these figures of wood will speak. They will walk about the earth. And the people made of wood spoke, and they did walk about the earth. They looked like people, and they spoke like people. They reproduced, and they increased in numbers, spreading all over the land. They made clearings in the rainforest to plant their food. But they did not have minds. They had no blood. Their cheeks were dry. Their knees did not bend. They did not offer incense to the gods. They continually hunted the animals without mercy. They continually cut the trees without showing any gratitude. So a great flood arrived. The face of the earth became dark. Rain fell by day and night. Animal gods such as the eagle flew down to strike the eyes of the wood people. And the great bat God flew down to strike their heads. Next, the small animals and the large animals came to attack those peoples. Oh my gosh, what a violent story, right? Some of the people made of wood tried to run away. They ran into the rainforest and climbed into the trees, but the trees cast them out. Finally, the two main gods in this story decided to try once again to make a human being. They held council to decide what would be used to make the flesh of the people. So they asked 4 animals to help them decide. The 4 animals were the parrot, the jaguar, the coyote, and the crow. The animals said, make these new beings from ears of corn. The creator and the maker ground that corn and made it into dough. From that cornmeal dough, they fashioned the flesh, the arms, the legs, and the bodies of the people. The new people were made from maize. The creator and the maker were happy because the people made of maize were intelligent and far-seeing. They were thankful. They sang and were grateful. They sang and praised the forest and the animals. However, the gods feared the people would see too much, that all of the earth and creation they would be able to see, so they darkened the eyes of the new people. Now the sight was limited to the closest parts of the earth and the sky that you could see. Now they would not become arrogant and forget to be thankful. Now they would not forget to take care of the rainforest, as long as they remembered to give thanks and to take care with how they would use the rainforest. So it remains to this day. That adaptation was from a book called Keepers of Life. I love this story for many reasons. First, guess what? The gods didn't get it right the first time. That makes me feel better for some reason. Life is always in process. Progress, maybe, hopefully. Next, the people the gods had created had not learned the tough lessons regarding life. It was a life of ingratitude and greed. The people the gods had created had to learn the tough lessons regarding consequences for a life of ingratitude. Finally, on the third try, the gods asked for help from other creatures. What a great model that is for us, to ask for help. May we understand that we were designed as helpmates to one another, people to people, plants to people, plants to plants. The theme in the early story was about the power related to being in connection, to learning from and sharing knowledge with one another. Here's a quote from Keepers of Life. Knowledge was inherent in all things. The world was a library, and its books were the stones and the leaves, grass, brooks, and birds, animals that shared alike with us, the storms and the blessings of the earth. Observation was certain to have its rewards: interest, wonder, admiration grew, and the fact was appreciated that life was more than mere human manifestation. It was expressed in a multitude of forms. The earth has much to teach us. Through the lens of the traditions of the early peoples, we acknowledge the abundance of their lessons. This morning, may we deepen our connection to the interdependent web of existence, of which we are part. In the story I shared, I hope you noted that, this quote, life is more than human manifestation. It was expressed in a multitude of complex forms, including the wisdom inherent in plants. My first fascination with plants, aside from childhood play, when I made countless crowns of clover flowers, maybe you too did this when you were little. When I was in my 20s, I began to take classes at a local college. I loved the aesthetics of flowers, how they could be elegantly arranged, and how, using a magnifying glass, I could explore the wonder of shapes that exists in every blossom. Soon I became enamored with the fragrances of herbs like basil and mint and lemon balm, which eventually led me to more college studies to learn more about some of the medicinal qualities inherent in plants. I don't have a medical degree, but I am in awe of the wisdom gleaned from plants, with the wisdom gleaned about plants from our elders, people of the past. Like so often, when I start checking into these studies related to the qualities inherent in plants, people say, oh, that's just, old wives' tales, or that's what grandma, used to say. Like that kind of wisdom is dismissed. I started saying to myself, why wasn't I taught this in health class when I was in school? Like, why didn't I find out that tobacco leaves rolled up in a poultice and put on bee stings? My brother had countless bee stings. Bee stings and insect stings can help to lower the infection of the bee sting or the mosquito sting. Why didn't I know that onions are good for preventing colds when you ingest the onions? Now, I did know this, but it came from my mother and my grandmother. Again, if you tell anybody, often people say, oh, that's what I heard, that's what I knew. Why does what I know today about the healing plants come from the genre of knowledge called folklore? Like much of what I've learned on my own, this kind of knowledge too often appears to have been systematically oppressed, or certainly creatively left out of our early school books and our classes, like health class, science class. It appears that even from the colonists' first interactions with the indigenous peoples, their wisdom was dismissed. Also, when slaves were brought to this country, they too had wisdom about plants that was also disregarded. From a text titled African American Herbalism, there's this. Harsh laws regulating herbalism originated in the times of slavery of the 18th and 19th centuries. Slave revolts were occurring, and sometimes the enslaved fought by using their knowledge of the plants to poison their enslavers and free themselves. Laws were enacted to restrict herbal use. Enslaved African Americans could be harshly punished or even killed for practicing herbal medicine or other traditions of herbal healing. Virginia state records show that between 1780 and 1874, there were 58 enslaved people who were convicted of poisoning or attempted poisoning. In October 1748, Virginia passed laws that forbade black people from preparing or administering medicine. Doing so would be a felony and punishable by death. By 1792, the law was amended because guess what? Whites wanted to use black people for healing as long as those healers were monitored and had good intentions. This additional part of the quote, in 1843, it was amended again to allow black healers to sell medicine under the watchful eye of their masters. Between 1748 and 1885, black healers and herbalists were brought to trial for practicing medicine illegally, but only the enslaved person would be punished, while their masters could use them for services as they pleased. These practices were designed to control the way black healers would practice. So even into the 1930s, the medical doctors and corporate medical establishment, hospitals emerged, by the way, in the 1860s. They all pushed back against herbalists and healers from indigenous and black communities because most people in those communities trusted the healers in those communities and therefore would not go to the local doctors. They would go to the people who had the ancient wisdom about the power of plants to heal, those in their own community. Now listen, I have no disagreements. I had disagreements with my father because he was a pharmaceutical rep since 1959 with the old Park Davis Company. For his nearly 50 years of work, he was a pharmaceutical rep. In my early adulthood, when I tried to explain my love and fascination with learning about the healing properties of plants, he took offense and said, "Amy, Western medicine was the most advanced in the world." And he pretty much dismissed anything I had to say about herbs. So, although my father is gone, may he rest in peace, I hope later on he came to know that I did realize, I did appreciate, and I am very grateful for Western medicine. After all, I'm not sure I would have survived my son's birth had it not been for a good hospital and an excellent doctor. So let it be known that one doesn't have to choose Western medicine over herbal healing aspects. The healing power of plants over the traditional medical establishment, that's not a competition. There's room for both. However, I have to say that for minor non-surgical ailments, herbs are pretty incredible. So before I share some examples, I have to reveal that I'm not a medical doctor, but I am a great fan of the earth and ancient wisdom about plants that many of our elders held. Let's start with that humble dandelion. Maybe you remember, certainly I did at one time, try to get rid of the dandelions in the yard. Some people know that the leaves can be healthy when added to salads. But even that yellow blossom is medicinal. When ingested, for example, there are 115 times more polyphenols in the flower than in the roots and leaves. Polyphenols, by the way, is a category of phytonutrients, which are chemical compounds in plants that provide specific health benefits, along with other nutrients in plants like fiber, vitamins, minerals. Polyphenols can help protect your body from the root cause of chronic illness. Elderberry builds immunity, purifies the blood, reduces inflammation. A little lavender to your bath, tincture in your bath water, soothes anxiety and tension. Saw palmetto assists with prostate enlargement and urinary problems for men. Add leaves from the moringa tree to your salad. The moringa has more vitamin C than found in an orange. Watercress was used by the first peoples, the first Americans, for liver and kidney trouble. It's rich in iron and has more calcium than milk. These plants that we can find in the wild and also planted here in Florida, are all around us. I'm so grateful for the generosity of plants. All of this ancient wisdom, however, is useless if we consume without considering a balanced relationship with the earth. So I took some classes in ecotherapy last year, and one of the things that occurred to me throughout my life, I'm like, oh, this is great. Thank you, earth, thank you. But I was neglecting that now it's time to take care of the earth, to be careful with the earth, to nurture the plants. That we are out of balance when we're not giving back and supporting the earth. Living in balance, by the way, this is from Keepers of Life, in many native North American cultures means to live within and honor the circles of life. A circle of giving and receiving becomes part of our relationship with the natural world when we take only what is necessary to survive and return the remains of plants and animals to the earth with gratitude. I know that Jay is listening. I know that composting Christina is listening. We're all talking about what we use, we give back to the earth. One of the ways to express gratitude to the earth for plants is to acknowledge that we are interrelated. We need to adopt a deeper commitment to the fact that what we do to the earth by way of contributing to landfills, using chemicals on lawns, and more will have a negative impact. I believe I'm speaking to the proverbial choir here when I say speak up to halt and reverse tropical deforestation, to plant new trees, you all agree with me, to increase the amount of oxygen, to reduce the use of beef and beef byproducts in factory farms, and support solar initiatives. You all agree with me, I know this. I believe all of us in this room and on Zoom shake their heads up and down on these agreements. And yet, how many of us can truly say we will do what we can to lower our contribution to landfills? Because it's hard. Because maybe we're in a condo and there are other people. Because it's hard, I get it. As we remain committed to our Unitarian Universalist Green Sanctuary, however, that certification program that you all worked hard to get through the UUA, there are little things that we can do here. I came here a little more than a year ago. I know I've been part of the discussions about potlucks and our request to bring your own flatware, your own dishes to potlucks and take them back home. I know that's frustrating. It's much easier to walk in, grab paper plates and plastic forks. That's easier. But the hard part is what sacrifices can we make to be better stewards of the earth? Going back to how can I help all of us be mindful? How can I help all of us be mindful? So maybe we can look again at a tradition by some of the Native Americans. In some Native traditions, there's a bead-making practice. By the way, all peoples have some kind of bead practice. We know Catholics do the rosary. We know that Hindus, yogis, do a necklace with beads. What kind of beads are those? Help me. The mala beads. Thank you. So we know Native Americans also did beads, but here's one practice that came up. A bracelet is strung with 7 wooden beads to remind the wearer that one's actions will have an effect on the next 7 generations. Among some Native Americans, they say, we stop to ask ourselves, in any action I take, my action is going to have an effect on my children's 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 children. 7 generations, right? There's this other thing. When there are 7 beads on this bracelet, it's also BALANCE, balance. I'm going to give you some bracelets at the end of service today that have 7 wood beads. If they fall off and they scatter on the ground, they will biodegrade. If you happen to wear them for a while, to remind yourself that what you're doing, what we're doing, again, I'm with you here. This is not easy to change habits. What we do will have an effect on the next 7 generations, and I'm going to provide you with those bracelets as you leave today. And you can wear them, they're elastic, as long or as little as you like. The authors of a text titled Keepers of Life, Caducho and Bruckach, wrote, science continues to reaffirm the great truths echoed in the teaching of the elders throughout the cultures of native North America, that we are all related at a cultural, ecological, evolutionary, and even molecular levels. Whether plant, animal, rock, air, or water, we are, in essence, all composed of the same subatomic particles. North American traditional cultures view nature as a relative, treating plants and animals in nature with care, keeps a healthy balance for the earth and for us. I hope you will take a bracelet today as you leave as a reminder to be friendly to our relatives that we're surrounded by every day. May it be so. Thank you. I'm always grateful, especially when it's a pretty morning in Florida, that you find yourself in this space to hear a message. I'm grateful for your presence today.